there's not going to be quite as many recommendations as the last time I did this, but I hope I've got some good ones for you. Hey folks, it's Abby and today I'm going to be giving you some Halloween reading recommendations. As I hinted at there, I have done this before. I did a Halloween recommendation video probably back in 2018, and you can see by the stack of books in the thumbnail that it was just one or two recommendations. This video is going to be a lot shorter, but it's also going to contain a couple of the same books just because I really do recommend them and you need to read them. Thank you. I've tried to go with a few different vibes for this. I know that some people love to just read horror when it does come around to this time of year, some people want to read thrillers, and some people want to read something with a little bit of spook in it. So I've tried to find them all. I have 10 recommendations here, along with a honorary mention at the very end for a book I haven't read but I think could be very good. So let's get straight into them. I'm gonna start with the least spooky and work my way through, because that seems to make sense to me. So the least spooky is gonna be Agatha Christie's books, so Miss Marple, Poirot, anything similar to this. So these are all, as you may know, about death, about solving murder mysteries, so it is still kind of that spooky vibe for the season, but it doesn't quite go all the way for those of you that aren't so keen on the darker books. So this would be a nice little light way to join in on the season's festivities. Then two classics that both give off the vibes of the season, but again aren't that dark themselves. First up we have Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. This is about a couple that just should not have been a couple. I read this recently, tried to describe it and couldn't. Basically it's Heathcliff and Catherine, and dear god is this a mess, but it's got all of the vibes of a dark, dingy, spooky night where no moonlight is shining through and you're stuck on the moors. Spooky. And then, kind of related, we have Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. If you've never read this book, you may have been, wrongly, like me, thinking that this was all about a big green monster zapped with electricity who near the end of the book comes alive. It is not. The monster comes alive at the beginning of the book and then we discuss human morality. So this isn't that dark. There is murder involved within the book, there is death, but it's not completely violent, and I do think that this is a little bit more of something that you could dip your toe into for the season, again if it's less your jam. The Malinowski Papers by H. Jones is a historical mystery centred around the Romanov family. So you may not recognise that name instantaneously, but it is a Russian monarch family who went into hiding and everyone thinks that the daughter Natasha survived. She probably didn't, but this story delves more into the mystery of that, the thriller aspect, and it goes into how she could have escaped and what could have happened from that point onwards, as well as what happened whilst they were being kept under lock and key by the communists. Very interesting book. Obviously plays around with the history itself, so don't use it for historical accuracy's sake, but very, very interesting, very enjoyable, and I do recommend picking this one up. Next up we have That Old Black Magic by Cathi Unsworth, and this book is getting a little bit darker and a little bit creepier here because some young boys playing in the wood find the body of a dead woman stuffed inside of a hollow in an elm tree with her mouth stuffed with cloth. And from there on out things just get even weirder. This is a darker book. We are starting to get into actually spooky territory now, and I couldn't put this book down. I had actually been going to give it 4 stars when I finished it, and my partner just looked at me and was like, "You've ignored me for 4 hours for that book, that's a 5-star read." I was like, oh, okay, fair enough. This is one that I read quite a few years ago, and I read it as a Kindle copy, so I really do need to get my hands on a physical copy of this book. Keeping on the thriller side of things, we have The Other Black Girl by Zakiya Dalia Harris. I have a video review of this if you want to see it in full, so I won't discuss this too much here, but this is a thriller where a young woman is slowly being manipulated by a group of people who want to alter her life's actions. Damn, this is hard to describe. Please at least just watch like the first 2 minutes of that other video because it will describe it much better. This is not the sort of thriller where people are murdered and it's gruesome and there's blood everywhere. Instead, it's much more psychological, it's much more in your head, and I absolutely adored reading it. Then we have The Boneless Mercies by Genevieve. Tucholke? Right, it reads as Tucholke, but I don't know how you say it. I need to look that up. I just looked it up. It's Genevieve Tucholke, which I never would have guessed, so I'm very, very sorry, April. Genevieve Tucholke. And this is a retelling of Beowulf, but make it female and make it badass. This is amazing. I love this story so much. So it's about these young women who go around doing mercy killings for people who are on the brink of death and are currently just suffering before they do die. They go, they kill them as a blessing, I suppose, just a relief. And whilst they're doing this, which is considered to be honourable work, but people don't want to associate with them because of the work they do, they then hear about a bounty from up north where if you can slay this beast that is disrupting their town, then you get a load of gold. And one of the girls is determined to do this. She wants glory, she wants fame, she wants something other than this life of taking other people's lives and being avoided by all of society. This is such a fantastic book. I need to read more from Tucholke. Fantastic, amazing. Now we're on to the two final books. So first of all, I have Sabriel by Garth Nix. This is a book all about the magic of dealing with the dead. So very thematic for the season. In this book, our main character Sabriel's father is taken into death and he can't escape. Usually he wanders the lands of death as and when needed, sending people into death completely when they're lingering behind, but something's happened and Sabriel needs to help. So she adventures into this magical land that is separated from the normal world that she's grown up in, and she goes to try and help her father, and death follows. This is so good. I read it recently and I'm so mad I didn't read it years ago because I loved it so much. And then lastly, before our honourable mention, you're probably wondering where this was. Of course this one was on here. We've got Skulduggery Pleasant by Landy. Now I will admit this one is a lot more fun, a lot more silly. It's silly, okay? But by the time you get to like book 9, it's quite dark. I know that book 9 is a long way in to get, but just trust me. So this series starts off with a 12-year-old Stephanie discovering after her uncle has died that one of his best friends was a walking, talking skeleton detective who, on top of being a living detective, yeah, because no one has living detectives. Living skeleton, on top of being a living skeleton, also has magic, elemental magic, so he can have fireballs, he can make water, he can move the earth, and he can move the air. And it gets very dark quite quickly. This book just has a little bit of death. I mean, it's a walking, talking skeleton, so it's fine for Halloween, but when you get onto the later books in the series, it gets very dark, and I love it. I'm rereading this entire series with Hannah from Ladder M, Becca from the Comic Book Sanctum, and Ali from The Chaotic Reader, and Lizzie from Lizzie herself. She's joined us now for the Dead Famous read-along, which I'm absolutely loving doing. So that is so much fun, and you all should read the series. I've done a standalone video for this one as well. And those are all of the books that I've actually read that I'm recommending for you this Halloween. But if you're wanting something that might just tickle your fancy that I haven't read yet but sounds so good, it's Dead Nation. This sounds like it's got a lot of darkness, a lot of doom, a lot of death, and it sounds like it would be perfect for the spooky season. Let me know down below, guys, if you've read any of these books, especially Dread Nation, because I want to know what you think of it. But if you've read any of these books and what you think of them, and also what you plan to read this Halloween, I'm wanting to read quite a few spooky books. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde for a bit of a classic there, as well as the next book in the Skulduggery Pleasant series, because of course I am. If you enjoyed the video, please do hit like. Down in the description box are all of the trigger warnings for all of these books, as well as the links to my Bookstagram, my book Twitter, my book blog, and my Goodreads. And if you enjoyed the video, please do hit subscribe so you can see more of my content. Thank you so much for watching, folks, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye!